Hello, welcome to Only Stupid Answers. My name is Sam Basher,
I'm DJ Wooldridge.
and we're coming to you from a new location because,
Whoa.
whoa, power's out at my house, so I don't know, I had to sneak somewhere and get some Wi-Fi. We're doing anything we possibly can to get these Stargirl reviews to you ASAP, as soon as they go live on DC Universe, but not next year. Anyways, let's talk about Season 1, Episode 10, Brainwave Jr. As Henry Jr. hones his newfound skills, uncovered secrets from his family's past force him to make a difficult decision. Meanwhile, Courtney, Yolanda, Beth, and Rick's latest plan brings them face-to-face with a member of the ISA. Finally, tensions between Pat and Barbara force her to revisit her own past. Man, these kids are very good at not talking to the one adult that knows what they're doing and immediately go into danger and get themselves hurt.
Listen.
This time, a kid died.
Yeah. So listen, I texted Pat and he hasn't got back to me in 5 minutes. I think we all need to go to the secret base.
Where murderers.
Murderers
live.
People that we've established murdered children without much pause. Also, murdering the kids.
To send a message,
yeah,
really. Just
exactly. Murdering their own kids, the kids of their own organization.
Yep. So, yeah. So sometimes we get comments that, like, they're just kids. But yeah, that's the point. I'm not criticizing the show because of that, but like, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
It's a little like, I was a scared kid who'd always ask my parents permission to do stuff.
Yeah. And see,
so sometimes I have trouble trying to understand why these kids are running into literally, it's like running into an open volcano and then getting confused why your legs are on fire. You're like, what? Wait a second.
See, that's Sam. That is the whole reason why you never got to go on cool adventures where your friends died. All right, is because you always ask for permission.
By the way, low stakes adventures, but do you remember the boxcar children?
Yes.
They just find an old train track in the woods and they just like eat snacks out of an old crate or whatever they did.
Classic.
I don't know why we call those adventure novels. They just found like trash in the woods and they played in it.
Yeah.
Anyways, can't wait for that to hit Disney Plus. But I'd watch it. But actually, I do want to say this is my favorite episode of the show so far. Nice. Which just because I thought the performance from it was Jake Austin Walker as Henry King Jr. I thought he did a genuinely really good job. Like, I think episode to episode he's been very impressive because he's very much in the first episode he's very much a bully.
Yeah.
I just made me think of, do you remember the very first episode of Rick and Morty? Morty's threatened by a bully. He's like, wait, you think he's like, you don't want to bother me? You think my family's poor? And then he gets frozen and he gets shattered and he's dead.
Yeah.
Something like that. He's just this like over the top villain, Henry King Jr. But eventually he becomes more nuanced and he's got different layers to him. And even though he did mess up and hurt Yolanda in like a genuinely awful way, he does apologize. Finally, it took him a while, but he did finally apologize. And I thought the acting when they were using their mind powers, because that's a really easy thing to make look stupid.
Yes,
and I thought they actually made it look like there were stakes. And I thought that battle was, even though there's a lot of cool hand-to-hand action, whenever Stripe gets involved, that's really cool. I thought that whole scene was one of my favorite action scenes of the series so far.
Yeah, they've done some really cool stuff. It is crazy how capable Courtney is in combat, considering she's done almost literally no training.
Gymnast.
Because she's a gymnast, that's true. Yeah, because she gets the one spear off the wall, and she's like kicking ass. Like she's doing really good. And it's one of those.
I was led to believe that the staff was doing that for her mainly.
Yeah. But
like
apparently
the
not.
cosmic staff, not the one she picked up. I thought that was helping her, but apparently not.
Apparently that's all her. And but again, willing suspension of disbelief. Like you roll with it. It was a fun action sequence. It was fun. We finally got to see Dragon King's face.
It would look cool.
Yeah.
Good makeup.
He looks straight like Reptile from Mortal Kombat, and I'm all about it.
He's very much like Killer Croc.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and like you said, I think it's a bummer. The spoilers for this episode, obviously, if you haven't checked it out, or watch it before you watch this review. It was disappointing to, in the right way, it was disappointing to lose Henry King Jr. It was because of how much the character progressed since the first episode. At the beginning, he was one of the characters I was like, ugh, this guy. You know what I mean? Like the classic bully trope. But as his situation became, as his dad went into a coma and he started getting his powers, like his situation became a lot more fraught and it became a lot more complicated, to the point where he almost interests me more than our main group of kids. And you get a sense like there's a scene where Courtney brings him to to her JSA Junior club, and you get a sense immediately, like, well, he can't stick around because him and our man Rick kind of fill the same I'm the jerk role. You know what I mean? Like, they feel the same, like, part of the dynamic. But it's funny because I wouldn't have thought this way at the beginning of the show, but like, Henry interests me more. Like, he's just he's less at this point now. Well, now he's dead, but at this point, less bratty and more just like really like I have a lot of sympathy for him, like, in all the stuff that he's going through. And I think, I don't know about you, but the second, you know, he's like, Icicle killed my mom, I'm like, that's not the way this is gonna go.
No, your dad's real bad, and but it's your dad.
Yes.
You know, like, I believe that he was like, no, it must have been the other guy. It had to have been, because my dad, he's a good person. Mm-hmm. Like, you can see this progression of him becoming worse. Yeah, a worse person. Also, we never dealt with it. Henry killed that guy, that lawyer that came into the room. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even know where the body went.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know what happened. Like, he had like an aneurysm where all the blood shot out of his brain, out of his eyes and his ears. That's like, it seemed crazy.
They just put his body in Henry King Sr.'s bed and then leave. Like, what's it's the same thing.
Dye his hair red. Yeah. Dye his hair red and just, get out of there. Sneak out of there without anyone seeing. But yeah, and wow, he got, if I may say, respectfully, very smushed under those rocks. Of course, probably with season 2, he's going to come back. I don't know. Brainwave Jr. plays a bigger role too in like the younger JSA, Infinity Inc. That's and I know it's more complicated, and I like the idea of a more complicated character being on a team like this. And like, he has a dynamic built in with Yolanda in the sense of that they hate each other, or she hates him for very good reason.
Yes. But
maybe seeing them deal with that, or maybe the writers were like, can we even deal with it? You know, like, whatever. Like, I would like to see the return of him in some way, because we've seen just kicked a bunch of cans under the desk that just fell over. But we've seen Dr. Ito bring people back to an extent. There's zombies. There might degree. Just be lizards. I don't really know what's underneath that cloak. But yeah, he could bring Brainwave Jr. back in some way.
And maybe Brainwave Jr. like protected himself with a psychic shield or something, you know, one of those things. Although I think they did do a pretty good job of, other than seeing like poles sticking through his desiccated corpse or something, like they really made
that
it
child's corpse.
Yeah, exactly. They really made it look like he got smushed real good, and it was an effective scene. It was surprisingly like it was emotionally well executed scene after that really solid fight scene. I will say something that did not work for me as well this episode is watching a teenage girl confront her a grown woman, adult mom with all her faculties, and say, "No, mom, you don't know who my dad is. Let me tell you who my dad is." And it's like, but she was there though. Like, again, the Starman mystery baffles me, because the mom would know. Like, even that they have her look up on the computer, Starman, and she found the worst photo, and you can still see that it's Joel McHale.
Yeah. That storyline was really infuriating, because they did the same joke again at the beginning of the episode, where like Pat's like, okay, we have to tell your mom. Yeah. And like, she's seen the flying glowing stick. Yeah. And which is broom. Mm-hmm. And then like, we should tell him what that is. And she's like, no, it's a science experiment, whatever she says. Yeah. She does it twice, and Pat's like, knock it off. Yeah. We're going to tell you everything. And I don't know. I thought that scene was kind of wonky. Scenes that did work. Pat and Amy Smart's character,
Mom Whitmore. Yeah.
Pat and Mommy Whitmore. Them meeting. I thought that was it was super cheesy, but I thought it was cute. It was a cute way to intro the episode, and also just timeline wise, I was a little confused. I want to know where Trey Romano, where that kid came from. I want to know what that relationship was.
Yeah, whose mom? Who's Trey Romano's mom? I think is the question on everybody's lips.
But also Barbara Whitmore.
Barbara Whitmore.
Barbara.
No.
But you brought this up in a previous review that Trey is written like an adult man, adult TV writer.
Yeah.
Like he's written older. He's based Trey Romano. He's basically written like Ray Romano from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
Now
I want to see a version of the show where it's Ray playing the younger brother role.
It'd be so funny that like kind of like, you know, like that. What's that called? Half mile stare, mile wide stare, whatever that is, where it's just like he's got blank behind the eyes. You ever see Ray Romano do that? Anyways, well, I was bringing that up because you mentioned that, and in the scene where Pat's like, "I gotta go," Mom said, "Gotta go," and Trey's like, "Hey, you, me, we stick together. We've been through war together." Whatever they're saying, I don't know. Like Trey's like talking like they've known each other for 30 years, and not that he's not his son. And he's like, "Dad, don't be emotional, all right? Don't tell me you love me or give me a hug or anything, even though I'm probably 9. I don't know what age he is.
Yeah.
Maybe he's 12. I'm not sure." But it was so funny the way he was written and the way his dialogue worked. Because I thought also Trey Romano is a good actor, but sometimes when he's acting, he acts like an actor. He doesn't seem like he's acting like a kid. He seems like he's acting like an actor. Not a bad thing. It was just little things I noticed because I thought it was adorable.
I liked Mike going with Pat, and I was a little bit weird when I can't even remember it. I blacked it out when Mike is like, "You're not my sister. We're supposed to trust each other," because it's like. I wouldn't tell you all this superhero junk. I don't know. Like, no, you're like a little kid. You don't get to know about this stuff. Listen, me dealing with this got your dad kicked out of the house. All right. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. You got to have the tension ratcheted up before we get to the last 3 episodes of the season.
Yeah.
As a series. No, it's been renewed.
Yeah, it's been renewed. And it looks like they're setting up the mom to kind of be a mole within the organization, which I'm sure is going to work out great. I'm sure she's not going to get kidnapped or anything. Why would she? And I think this is a good opportunity to, since a lot of we didn't really introduce any new characters, I think it's a good opportunity. She emails Courtney's dad, and he does reply because he's not Starman, because of course he's not Starman. Anyway, so in the comics, the question is, in the comics, who is Stargirl's, who's Courtney's dad? And in the comics, it's a man named Samuel Curtis, who we saw in the email. He first appeared in Stars and Stripe number 10 in 2000. He was created by Jeff Johns and Scott Collins. And he's just a petty crook. Eventually, he does join the Royal Flush Gang, and he doesn't get beyond the rank of 2 of clubs. He's always like a low-ranking member. I
didn't know that's how it worked. I knew the higher up, the more they were like leaders or whatever.
Yeah,
but I didn't know that's how it worked.
And most of the time I read it's only the actual royal. It's not like every card suit has a dude. So I'm guessing this is a more extensive version of the Royal Flush game where it's like you've got a 2 of clubs and you've got a 3 of hearts, and you know what I mean.
I actually like that more because, like, I know the Flash has had a lot of the Royal Flush Gang and other. You could use that mechanic a lot, like Intergang. It's like, no, we're global, you know, we have like so many people, like the Royal Flush Gang. If you're like, like we have like a lot of members, you just notice the 5 because they're the coolest.
Yeah, they've got powers and junk. Yeah,
they fly around. One of them warps reality.
It depends on who's riding them.
You know, like cards.
Yeah, like
card theme,
like cards do.
Card theme.
Now, but I will say, and obviously that's who she emails. And I am a big proponent of just let her. I think this whole mystery is dumb, and I think it's one of the weakest plot points in the show. And I think we should just ditch it as quick as possible. That said, there is a possibility that I would like to bring up that this episode is directed by Andy Armaganian. I hope I pronounced that right. And I think she did a great job. She or he, I should say. I don't know their gender. But it was written by James Robinson. He is best known for creating the Jack Knight version of Starman, which is the one that has the welding goggles and the leather jacket.
And it's smaller, right? It's a smaller staff.
His staff looks exactly like Courtney. Courtney's staff in the comics is his staff. He gives it to her. And as I was looking up stuff, I found out that apparently in some versions of the comic, that staff, which was created by his dad, Ted Knight, the original Starman, is supposed to be DNA locked to the Knight family. And if you're like, wait, I haven't really seen Jack Knight Starman show up a lot in the comics, that's because apparently James Robinson has a deal with DC that version of the character can't show up without his permission. And so it's interesting that he is writing for the show. And so it makes me feel like perhaps maybe we might see the Jack Knight version of Starman, and maybe that is actually Courtney's father, and they're gonna switch things up. I don't necessarily like that idea because I don't really like the I'm important because my dad's important. I'm not a huge fan of that. We've done it. It's done. We've done it enough. What are your thoughts on this, Sam?
It's not. I don't think I dislike it. I just think we've seen enough. We've read and enjoyed genre everything.
Yes.
So that happens a lot, where the parent passes down something like that. I don't hate it because I kind of like the idea of seeing that character specifically in that costume, because I think the costume departments on these shows do a really good job, and I think he could look really cool. And you showed it to me. I read him because he was actually used for the Dark Horse Hellboy crossover with DC, and it was him and Hellboy.
Yeah.
Batman for a second, because you got to have Batman.
You got to have Batman. You got to sell those copies
for just a second.
And it'd be cool to see a live action Jack Knight.
Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of somebody who actually knows how to use the staff showing her, like, did you know it could do this? Yeah. Like, did you know it could? I always like when characters like that show up to kind of like challenge the hero to try new things and to expand their own abilities and their skill set.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do kind of like the idea a little bit more that she is related to someone who was a petty criminal, and that's why the mom doesn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah,
specifically. And no, that makes more sense. That makes more sense unless Jack Knight's there was just they did not work together in a marriage, or maybe he's an a-hole, and she doesn't want him around. It's like it does open doors, and I do not hate the idea, but we've seen it before.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. There might be a way that Sam Curtis could be the dad, but maybe in a season 2 we could see Jack Knight as the son of the original Starman, kind of train her more in what the staff can do. And there could be an interest, even though he's not her biological father, there could be an interesting thing where he's like the cool dad, and so Pat has to kind of compete with like, Courtney's liking him more because he's cool, he's got the jacket, he's got the goggles, you know what I mean? There could be something cool there.
And also that's super confusing too, because if maybe the idea is that Jack Knight. So that Jack Knight's father made the staff, but the staff didn't go to Jack Knight. It went to Sylvester Pemberton.
Yeah.
Great name, by the way. Just fun to say that name.
It is.
But it went to him instead, and now it's to Courtney. It's just weird that, like, I think there's something interesting there that either Jack maybe turned down the staff, or it was like a heir that, like, what's that called? An heirloom that he didn't get from his father after he passed. Like, there's something interesting there that can be explored as well. But I do like the idea of fun dad, lame dad, between like Pat being like really safe and he's got the big mech suit, but this person can actually use the staff and teach Courtney what to do with it. Maybe introduces the belt. They don't need to do the belt. The belt is what like sucks in cosmic energy and then it pushes it into the staff, right?
You know what? Sure. I don't really remember.
I could be wrong. That's just off the top of my head.
Be fair, that sounds right. I think that's like old school Silver Age.
Like plug it in,
or Golden Age of the character. Yeah, and in the comics there is a way to do that because Jack didn't want to be Starman. It's not until his brother dies that he kind of takes on the mantle. So it could be one of those like, I don't want anything to do with superheroics, but I do know how to use it. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they go. It just seems like having James Robinson on the writing staff with like that is where the version of Stargirl we know where she gets her staff in the comics is from Jack Knight. So it just feels like it feels like he's going to show up. It feels a little too coincidental for him to not show up at some point.
And there was a issue. There's a podcast episode of Word Balloon, which is a comic book podcast. Highly recommended. Jeff Johns went on to talk about Stargirl a couple different times, and he mentioned James Robinson because the host, John Suntress, mentioned James Robinson being a part of it, and he's like, "Yeah, that's." Without saying anything, because of course he's not gonna like spoil the show, but he's like, there was a specific reason why we asked like James Robinson for his history with the character, and so I'm like, okay, cool, like maybe it means something. But by the way, we speaking of siblings, one thing we didn't mention was you threw out the theory based on classic comic book storytelling that gimmick girl, the thousand gimmicks, in the comics, that is who is married to Brainwave and is the mother to Brainwave Jr., but also that woman, I apologize, is the biological sister to Sylvester Pemberton, And so that made them, oh wait, that makes it more confusing because that made them think that they were cousins.
Yeah, and they're probably not. And also in the comics, she's adopted, so it's not. I was like, yeah, at least you streamlined one thing. It wasn't like adopted. No, they're siblings, and we're just gonna move on. We're just gonna move on. Yeah. So if Starman is her dad, which he's not, but if he is, then they would be second cousins. Cousin first from
cousins. They'd just be cousins.
Okay.
Oh wait. If Starman is if Starman is her dad, then they're cousins, and then if they're not related, then they're strangers.
they're complete strangers. Yeah.
They can choose to be cousins, I guess, but that doesn't make any sense.
But also, he's crushed now, so it doesn't matter.
Yep, squished.
Yep.
You know what they say. That kid got.
Yeah.
But anywho's on that sound, let's go ahead and rate the episode.
Yeah. What would you rate the episode?
I dug it. I give it like an 8.8.
Nice. I like that. I'd probably give it an 8. I'd probably give it a straight 8 because even though this wasn't my favorite episode, I think overall what the bones of the show are real solid. You know what I mean? They're way more solid than the bones of Brainwave Jr. after he got squished, probably.
Do you agree with that statement? Let us know in the comments down below. I do.
Yeah.
But please let us know your thoughts on this episode of Stargirl. What you think of the season, how you think it's going to wrap up, and make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and do all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.